You know who we are. The most dangerous morning show.
Put some respect on it.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests joining us this morning.
Yes, sir.
From the Cut to It podcast, we have Steve Smith Sr. and Gerard Littlejohn. Welcome, fellas.
Appreciate it.
Yes, we got it. We hear audio.
That's right. And Steve Smith Sr. is one of the best wide receivers ever in the history of the NFL. Eighth leading receiver in NFL history, one of the best shit talkers in NFL history. So a podcast was a natural transition for him.
I think so, a little bit, but I really didn't like podcasts. And then when the pandemic hit, started listening to some, and so I thought I'd get into the game a little bit. So appreciate you giving me the opportunity with Black Effect.
Nah, I appreciate y'all partnering with the Black Effect, man. Why didn't you like podcasts to begin with, though?
Man, G's gonna laugh at me, but I'm set in my ways, and so it's like if I don't like grapes, I don't even have to taste them. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't want any. Right. And so I never really listened to podcasts. I thought, just hearing a few, it was just a whole bunch of people just talking and running their mouth. And then I started listening to a few podcasts when the pandemic hit. And then I was like, you know what, I want to do one. And G had been working on me, and my team been working on me for about 2 years to do one. And I was like, no, I'm good. And then I started doing it, started listening to it. And then I said, you know what, let's do one, but let's do it our way, which is giving athletes an opportunity to speak their truth, talk about what they feel like talking about, and not and creating their own narrative.
And now Cut to It is one of the top 200 podcasts in the sports category. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
What podcast was you listening to that got you into it? What was the podcast?
Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah.
But it was the episode with him and Mike Epps, and he was just talking about when they were incarcerated in Indiana, and just all the different things. And I grew up a boxing fan, and that was the part of Mike Tyson that no one ever heard. And so I was just like, there's a lot of athletes, including myself, people don't want to really know about you. They just want to hear, how are you feeling when you made that catch? And I call it low-hanging fruit, the easy questions. Oh, what is it like catching a touchdown pass? But I also know there's some players that have played in the league who have had some unbelievable games. However, their life outside of football is in disarray. They've, mother-in-law may have cancer, and how those guys are able to zone that out and have some of the best games of their career, man. I just think our platform gives them an opportunity to really tell their story to the realest and rawest form.
Well, why did you decide to host the podcast with Gerard instead of another athlete?
Well, because one, Gerard did play sports. He didn't play in the NFL, but also that's my dude, and we know each other. He's my little brother, and we talk and we share. Our families are pretty close, and so it was good to get with somebody that understood you. He wouldn't ask that. Let's be honest. When you're doing a podcast with someone, there's always going to be someone or somebody out of the group that does some dumb stuff or asks a dumb question. And with him, sometimes he'll tell me, hey, bro, that was stupid. And then I'll tell him, and we cool with telling each other, man, that was a dumbass question. And he's not all in his feelings. So that's what I love about him.
Now, what do you think about Go ahead, bro. Gerard.
I was just gonna say it's just a rapport, right? And to Smitty's point, I've been pushing him for 2 years, largely because you see him on NFL Network, you see him as an analyst, and he has this rapport, not just with current players because they look up to him, but with the OGs like the Deons, like the LaDainian Tomlinsons, like the Michael Vicks, to where we're right in this great spot to where we can get this authenticity from a lot of these athletes because of the format and the way that we come about doing this podcast.
And Steve, now that I understand, the angle you're going for, Gerard brings that out of you because he brings out that personal side of you.
Yeah, and I feel safe with him. I don't feel like he's sitting there with his pen and pad, and then a couple of years later he's gonna write a book and basically, I mean that's my. I hate to say it, but sometimes water's thicker than blood.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you,
for sure.
What do you guys think about the football season this year? You think they should scrap it and cancel it?
No, I mean, listen, I think really everything that's going on, I've answered this question a few times, and a lot of people kind of look at me sideways, so I say it like this. When the pandemic hit, they gave players the opportunity to opt out. And people have asked me, what do you think, or would you do it? It really depends on what year you're in, what your contract is, and what your bank account looking like.
Mm-hmm.
If your bank account, if you just like any other company, if you live in paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford it. You got to roll that dice. If you can, you're gonna look at it differently, but not everybody has that opportunity. So, and then at the same time, man, sitting at home, I don't necessarily think sitting at home and sterilizing everything is good for our system anyway. We need to get out a little bit, be smart, be safe. At the end of the day, man, this is a hygiene problem, and some of y'all need to wash your hands. It's well beyond. It's well beyond football, man.
Smitty with the hygiene tip.
Recently, man, you decided to put out a special episode, a cut to it, and you spoke about your release from the Panthers. I mean, why was the podcast the perfect place to finally make you express all of that?
That's a good question. One of it is because I know I'm part of the media, but man, I think some of the media guys that write, they're lazy and they represent like a beat writer for a team. He's in the middle. He's supposed to represent the connection between the players, and then he writes the article, and then the fans think that beat writer has a real connection or a relationship with the player. And I'm telling you, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes they are talking by talking to a whole bunch of other people. They talk like they're the fly on the wall. And some of them dudes have never even had conversations with players, never had conversations with teams. But when they write that article, the fan goes, oh, he must know something. So a lot of information that I dropped on the podcast, no one ever knew because there wasn't a lot of flies in the room. It was only a few people. And so I was like, and I held it in. I didn't say anything. So I was like, we're going to do it my way. And we're going to basically tell the whole truth of what happened. So there's this side, that side, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth. But we've only heard one side. Well, this is why. Everybody keeps saying that, that I was jealous of Cam. Man, it's funny. It's like, I can't be jealous or mad at someone who already has a bigger platform than me, right? I was only looking at football as I was at the end of my career. I had a destination. I had an opportunity that I wanted to get. And Carolina as an organization at that time of my career was not giving me that. So I decided to do what I need to do.
I think that's also an important part of why you have a podcast in the first place. You have a platform to truly communicate exactly how you feel, and there's no middleman. Not saying that there's a problem with the media or anything like that, but that's the whole basis of why we started Cut To It, is that we could have an athlete, including Steve, to be able to tell their stories their way.
Did you hear from anybody from the Panthers after that, Steve? Did Cam reach out?
No, I mean, we don't really talk like that here in the middle of the season. I try not to bother guys, man. They got a lot going on, and then they isolating, and then they on Zoom calls. Even in the media, man, I've been on so many Zoom calls. I'm tired of Zoom, right?
Tell me about
it. We all are. Man, we all are.
And then the other thing is I have a relationship with a lot of teams, with a lot of coaches, GMs, and players. So I get a lot of calls from a lot of guys. I talk to the Panthers because of my job a lot of different times. So it's not like all of a sudden people are reaching out like, oh, man, that was great. It was just like, man, that was just me.
You know what? As a player, you said something earlier about, sometimes people don't realize there's things going on in people's lives, and they still got to go out there and play. Like, you don't think about it. You just want your favorite player to bust ass or to win. But, damn, you don't know if his mom just had cancer or somebody just passed away or whatever it may be. So being a player, how do you deal with it? Is it praying? Is it yoga? Is it like, how do you deal with everything that's going on outside of football? Or is football a therapy for you?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I don't think at times football was a therapy. Other times, man, football is just a great opportunity where you go out there, you having a rough day, and it's a run play, and you got a corner in front of you. Man, that's tough for that corner, right? And then there's other times where you just kind of block it out. You compartmentalize. And I'm be honest, it wasn't easy at times. There are times, that's why one of the reasons I retired. is the guy that played football all those years. There were times, man, I was not happy with myself. I struggled with being able to shut that off. And there were times where, especially building up to Sundays, man, by Friday afternoon, my wife would be like, man, go somewhere. Because you just start to turn that switch on and get into football mode. And football mode is not, hey, how you doing? In football mode is somebody say, hey, how you doing on Saturday night? I give them a blank stare like, man, I'm good.
That's why I don't understand why they don't have, or maybe they do. Football players need to have more access to psychiatrists and therapists.
No, teams are starting to do that now. Teams have.
It's starting to trend that way for sure.
Yeah, they have to, and then also too, man, that the perfectionists trying to always be perfect and trying to be in performance based, man. Waking up, performing every single day, and then having social media and those people commenting. Like, I used to hate that the fantasy football where a dude be like, oh man, you suck because you didn't make me 20 points in fantasy. Like, I didn't throw it to myself.
Yeah, I wonder how many careers have been cut short not because of physical health, because of mental health in the NFL.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of guys, man. It's a lot of guys. Fans think money changes everything. It does, but if you have a lot of money and if you're a selfish person, man, you're just a selfish person with a whole bunch of money. Money makes you more of who you already are.
And that's been a theme that we've seen as we talk to these guys, that mental health continues to come up. We talked about it with Malcolm Jenkins. Mm-hmm. There's other episodes we got coming up, Torrey Smith, where you're going to see that it's going to be a thing, just because I think it's top of mind right now, whether it's the pandemic or just as guys are progressing through their careers. But it's been a consistent theme and something that we speak freely about, and especially between Steve and myself. Like, we always just try to check in. I check in on him to see, man, how you doing? As simple as that, just to check in, on his mental health, on anyone's.
Yeah, I've been going to therapy every week for the past about 3-4 years now, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made.
Well, why did it take you so long?
Just thinking nothing was wrong. Thinking like when I first got diagnosed with anxiety, the first time I ever had a clinically diagnosed panic attack was 10 years ago. I always had those feelings before, but the doctor actually told me, you had a panic attack. But at the time, I was back home living with my mom in South Carolina. I was like 31 years old, and I had been fired for 4 times from radio. So when the doctor was like, yo, are you stressed about something? I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So in my mind, all I had to do was get some money and get back in position, and everything would be good. And then I had to professionally, I had the best 10 years of my life, which has been the Breakfast Club and everything else. And still having that anxiety, still having that PTSD, still having them bouts with depression. So that's what made me start going.
Now, I want to normalize it.
You said what?
I said it's important to normalize that.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you too, Steve, as an athlete, right? And Gerard, jump in on this too. What is the value of getting to know athletes for who they are when they take their uniforms off?
Man, I think it's a huge value, but I don't think it sells. People don't really want to know that. When we talk about, you see people talking about, shoot and shut up or catch the pass,
shut
all
up
that
and
stuff.
Dribble.
Shut up and dribble, like all that stuff, man. People, as people say, they want to have their entertainment. They don't want to think. I get it to a certain extent, but just like technology, things are evolving. And so, the unfortunate part is money talks though. So if people start pulling out and not putting that money into it where things, aren't profitable, well, things change. So, but knowing who that athlete is, man, for me, it's everything, because I have always been told who I am, oh, you're this, you're that. And then I'll do an interview, I'll do something. And this is the worst compliment I ever get. I call it a backhanded compliment. So me and Gia B, maybe, because that's my dude, like he my second in command. So we'll sit in a meeting, right? And sometimes I come late to meetings just to see who's late, right? Into a meeting. So we're sitting at a meeting, and all on the side, are people that don't look like us, that don't have tattoos, that aren't our age, they're a little bit older. And then we'll get in a meeting. And I've had a dude tell me one time, man, if you couldn't catch a football, you wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And I said, you're absolutely right. And if you couldn't operate a fund, you wouldn't be here. So we've got that out of the way. What are you bringing to the table? How much passive income are you going to produce for me and my family? And the funniest part, at the end of it, he wanted me to be his first client for his mutual fund, for his fund. I looked at my guy, whose name is DC. I looked at him and I had that look like, did you just really waste my time with this dude? Right? But that's just kind of how it is. So I think knowing the athlete, who he is or who she is, what they represent, knowing their story, is extremely important. And the people that don't want to listen to it, and that's all for you, but there's a lot of people that want to know the people around it, because you can play 16 years, but you still got so many years of your life to live, that I think is intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But just think about it. Even what you said before, I believe it's largely transactional a lot of times. You got these 24-hour news networks, and all they want to do is talk about performance on the field. You dropped this pass, you didn't cross the goal line, whatever. What the consistent feedback we're getting from this podcast is, man, no one's ever asked me about me. No one's really took the time to research about me. And so we get feedback from these athletes saying, man, that was one of the best interviews I've ever had, because we take the time to research about that individual, male or female. And so that's just our approach. And I think, to your point, Charlamagne, it's starting to pay some dividends, because people want to hear their coming of age story. People want to hear where people come from, what drives that person to be an athlete or an entertainer or whatever the case may be.
That's why I think athletes make great hosts and pundits and commentators, because I can't get into Mike Vick's head the way Steve could.
Right.
Because he's actually played. You know what I'm saying?
And they got mutual respect for each
mutual
other.
respect. Like, it's them little details. You can ask questions that I don't have the experience to ask. So you'll get something else out of them that I can't pull out of them.
Yeah, but you also know, like, just asking a guy, like, I always ask, after we do our ISO questions, I always ask this question. And, living here in North Carolina, everybody knows, Monk's Corner with
right.
Charlamagne, right? But when you say, where are you from, and what's and the place you call your hometown, man, that just, you perk up. There's a different part of you that wakes up, because you're saying, what's your hometown? Where are you from? You can work anywhere, but when you ask somebody where they from, man, you just get a different personality. Like, for me, when I say where I'm from, I live in North Carolina. I've been here going on 20 years, but every hat I wear always is only going to be one hat. It's going to be LA. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm from. That's where I rep. That's where I don't claim to be from nowhere else. They ain't trying to be. I can die here in North Carolina, but when it come down to it, where I'm from is LA.
Even that simple question, when we ask somebody that, it takes us in different directions. Like, the one we're releasing tomorrow, you're gonna hear a super funny story about Damian Tomlinson and where he's from, outside Waco, Texas, having, killing a goat, right? Like, we get the craziest stuff, but it's only because we just take the time to what Steve's talking about, like, just where you from, where you rep, and it takes us in all types of different directions.
I wanted to ask, being a dad, right? When you have kids and, your kids want to play sports, your kids want to play football.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dads out there that go back and forth and say, I love watching football. I enjoy watching professionals, but do I want my kid to get hit? You know what I mean? Do I want my kid to get a concussion? And how do you feel about your kids playing sports? And also, are you that crazy dad on the field? Like, that dad that's going crazy because you've been in there? Or do you sit back and be like, you know what, I'm going to see if my son is good or not first?
Well, that's a great question. So I got 3 boys and 1 girl.
Right.
And my oldest son, he played football for a little bit, but he didn't like the competition of being Steve Smith's son. So he ended up getting a scholarship, playing at DePaul, playing soccer. Then he just graduated, transferred to Wofford because he blew out his knee down in South Carolina. He just graduated. He's working as a business accountant. So, but he's taken care of. Mm-hmm. Then my 14-year-old son, my 15-year-old son, He played football and was fire, right? Played wide receiver, but he actually ended up turning into a pretty good corner. But he was a finesse corner. He'll pick the ball, he'll cover. Hitting, he didn't really want nothing about that hitting. But through the whole process, I would tell him, you hit what you can see. If you can't see, don't hit, don't shoot your gun. And so he understood that. But he had, I was obviously his dad. So we did a lot of little things. Like I got football pads and we trained in the summer. He was crying and sweating, all that stuff. But as far as going to games, I'm the dad, it's like Sunday for me. I'm not talking to you and you don't talk to me. Don't bother me. I actually, sometimes I'll sit on the field with headphones and I'll sit off in the distance. I don't even sit with my wife. Just don't bug me. Don't talk to me. I'm not going to say anything to you. So don't bother me, as far as parents. Now, when I was younger and my son was playing soccer, I was a little mouthy, but, that's why I kind of started sitting to the side and just kind of.
Oh, you got in trouble. Your wife put you on punishment.
Slightly, yeah.
Got a whooping.
Now, Steve, how did working at Taco Bell save your life?
Well, so here's a story. What happened? So I used to work at Taco Bell, and on Saturdays we had a game on Saturday mornings, but on Fridays in college and community college, there was no classes, or the 4-hour classes. I ain't taking a 4-hour class, right? So I used to work on Fridays. Well, me and a dude got into it and we was fighting. And so we fought on the field, and then we went in the locker room, and then he got a second helping. And so from there, it didn't go the way he liked. And so on Friday, he came in, he had his pistol in his jacket, and he was waiting in the locker area right where my locker was. But he didn't know I didn't come in on Fridays. So he ended up getting removed from the squad because basically he brought a gun on campus and basically was going to try to shoot me.
Damn.
And so it just didn't work out. But luckily, if I wasn't working on Fridays, I'm not really sure how it would have turned out. If I'd have walked in that locker area when he had that gun, because he wasn't coming to, like I say, he wasn't coming to give me a cookie recipe, So, and that's how it worked out. But what's crazy is on Saturdays, I would take the bus from my house, take the Wilshire bus all the way up to Pico and Bunday, walk, work at 6 a.m., work to about 3, go to my boy's house, take a nap, and then in Santa Monica, we played at night. So about 7 o'clock, I was out there playing ball. That was my Saturdays.
Damn, now, with all those fights you got into, because you got into a lot of fights.
How did it resolve, though?
Well,
what made him not want to shoot you no more?
Probably still want to shoot him.
I don't know.
You know what that means. They found him with the fishes. Now, question.
He's alive. No, not like that.
All right. Now, with all the fights you got into a lot of fights on the field, off the field, around the field, under the field, over the field. Gerard, has anybody ever stepped to you and say, you know what? I might not be able to beat Steve, but I might be able to take you, Gerard?
Oh, no. Ain't nobody stepped to me like that now. Nah.
Not at all.
No. I mean, it ain't, largely.
We straight.
Well, number one, we straight. But I mean, number two is, I think it's really easy to try to pencil somebody one way or another. And the thing about Steve, the thing about my brother is he's not what those kind of things have defined him as. So more than often, like, people know us from what we do in the community, how we give back, how we're able to, even right now, we got a virtual learning center for 100 homeless kids here in Charlotte, to where now they can do their virtual learning and they don't fall behind the crack more than what they already are. So largely, like, when we out, I mean, people would just give us more love than anything because we're giving back. Our foundation is giving back over $1 million since we started. So largely, it's more about what we do, and it's less about like who we are or those kind of things that can quote unquote define a person.
Absolutely.
Steve, you ever thought you had anger management issues? Because you did get into a lot of fights in the NFL, it seemed like.
No, but see, the thing is, bro, documented only got, I think, 3 fights. On the field, man, it's tussling. I mean, on the field, guys are getting into it, pushing and shoving all the time. I mean, that's the thing. People want to push that narrative, so let them push that narrative. But the thing is, I don't have no DUIs. I don't have all this other stuff that everybody says. So like we said, when I'm walking around the neighborhood or walking around Charlotte, LA, man, I just keep to myself. I'm really just kind of calm. If anything, I'm actually documented, like with my counselor, I'm an extreme introvert. Like I sit at the house a lot. I'm good with this social distancing. I'm straight. I've been social distancing for years.
This dude in heaven.
Some glasses and a face mask, man, I'm good.
So how you end up you broke 2 noses, Steve?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. No,
it was true. Okay. you broke 2 noses and they were both your teammates. Like,
fights happen all the time. And the way I was raised, you don't go for the body.
Damn it, man.
Got you.
Goodness gracious.
Are you cool with those people now? Did y'all get over that?
I mean, we got over it, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I made my mistakes. People harp on it. That's what they go. That's who I am. That's what's happened. But whatever.
Did you ever prove Bounty Gate against the Saints?
I don't need to prove Bounty Gate. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, football is about taking another man's will. Bottom line. It's not about it. That's what it's about. And that's how I grew up playing. My grandpa told me, he said, listen, if you want to play this game, you ain't the tallest, right? So if you want to play this game, you need to play this game the way I watched it. And when I watched it, Ronnie Lott, Eric Turner, Steve Atwater, like when I was growing up watching those guys, they used to hit the snot out of people. Mm-hmm. So that's how I played ball. When I caught the ball, try to stiff arm, hit the snot out of somebody, I try to block them. I did my best. So, I mean, football is a very aggressive sport. I'm from the inner city of LA. I grew up in an aggressive neighborhood. So it just it was right there. And, I'm king of the midgets. So it's just right there.
Now, you think the league got soft? Well, it's way softer. Like, the era where you just said, yeah, you knock a snot box, you don't hear that no more. Now you do that, you're getting penalties, you're getting 15 yards. You think the league is gotten really soft where it's not enjoyable as much?
No, I don't think it's getting really soft. I think there's some guys. I mean, you watch guys like Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. Aaron Donald's hitting the snot out of folks, right? Mm-hmm. Donovan Sue. Like, there's some guys out there hitting folks. And look, just like in radio, man, there's some radio guys out there who do certain things a certain way, man. It's you skin a cat so many different ways. So there's a lot of players out there that are super aggressive. There's a lot of players out there that are finesse. It just depends on how you like your oatmeal.
There you go.
One of the most fascinating conversations I think y'all have had on the podcast thus far was with Odessa Jenkins. The founder of the Women's National Football Conference. Mm-hmm. I didn't know much about it at all, but I learned a lot in that episode.
Right.
You think women's football could ever be as lucrative as the NFL?
I mean, as lucrative as the NFL, no, because the NFL didn't even know they were going to be as lucrative as they are, right? Mm-hmm. I was impressed with her because they already have so many teams, and I was just impressed where you got a mom who can cook dinner and then for a family of 5 and then go out there and crack back on somebody, right? That's impressive to me. And then, talking about another person, she's from LA. You could just kind of hear the banter and the back and forth. Just like folks from New York, and there's just, when you are from that town or that city and you have that thought process, you understand it. If you don't, you don't get it. That's why East and West is such a different place.
I think the thing about Odessa too is that someone told her way back when she was younger, you can't do this. And so that dropped the seed in her to where she's like, all right, I'm going to find a way to bring this to fruition. And so her whole life story has not just been that she played sports. She actually played college basketball to get her a scholarship. But largely it's been she wants to have a place for women to where they can no longer be told, no, you can't do this. So could it be as lucrative? We don't know. But for her, just to be able to have that space for other girls, man, that's her passion. So it came out in that conversation. And that's what we always hope to do with this podcast.
Gotcha.
Who y'all got on this week?
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Got you.
So it's pretty good.
All right.
Got you.
Well,
listen,
definitely check it out. Cut to It podcast. We appreciate you, brothers, for joining us this morning.
That's right. And go subscribe to the Cut to It podcast, man, on Black Effect, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. Steve and Gerard, appreciate y'all being my partners, man.
I appreciate you.
Y'all have a good one.
Peace.
All right.